Hi, my name is Kamal Rawat and today I am going to show you a live example of how AI can be misleading. This is also an example to demonstrate why a student of computer science should focus on learning core computer science skills, because we must have the mental ability and the knowledge to review the code that is given by the AI chatbot. Let us see it with an example. Today I was creating question bank for the students, and while creating the question bank I needed the code for the partition logic of quicksort. I opened Google Gemini and asked it to write the code that accepts an array and low and high indices. It should partition the array using the partition logic of quicksort, considering the first element as pivot. Write the code in C++. So this was a very simple prompt and I was expecting a simple partition logic code. This was a very fair expectation considering that the code of quicksort and the partition logic of quicksort is rampant and it is available on so many different websites. Let us see the results that I got from the AI. So first I got this method, but I wanted the partition logic where we use while loop inside the while loop. So I ignored it and gave another prompt. Use two while loops, one that increment the low and another for high, both enclosed in another while loop. I can understand that this prompt is not very elaborate prompt, but if you consider the history, then all the information is available with the AI. Let us look at the result of AI. So this is the result of AI. Now on the first look, it may appear to be error free, but if you see, this while loop will result in a crash if the first element is greater than all the elements. So if the first element is the greatest, which means that the pivot is greatest. So if the pivot is greatest, then this condition will never become false. If this condition never become false, then this loop will keep on doing I++, and ultimately I will go outside the array. When I goes outside the array, it will result in an exception and crash the code. Similarly, you can see that there is one more error. So this loop is incrementing the low as long as element at low is less than pivot. This loop is decrementing the high. So I is at the low and j is at the high. So this loop is decreasing high as long as element at high is greater than pivot. This code has not handled the situation where element at I or j is equal to pivot. What if the current element is equal to pivot? That condition is not handled. So this code is a very poorly written code and I am sure it will not pass even 50% of the test cases. Imagine if a student of computer science is relying on AI and it asks the AI to generate the partition logic of quicksort. So the partition logic of quicksort is generated like this and the student remember that. So my suggestion to the students is, do not blindly rely on the result of AI. Whether it is in the code, whether it is in any theoretical concept, whether it is related to any non-technical topic. Obviously, AI is fast to learn. So when I pointed it out that the while loop will crash if all the elements are less than pivot. So it acknowledged that you are absolutely right. If the pivot is largest element of the array, the I pointer could potentially walk right past the end of the array because the condition AI less than pivot would never be false. So this AI bot was able to learn its mistake only because I was able to find the error in its code, and then it provides this answer. So this answer is correct. Let's look at another example. In another example, I was generating the MCQs. Because I train students and professionals for coding interviews and system design interviews, I create a lot of questions for myself. For past few months, I am using a lot of AI to generate these kind of questions. In this case, I was trying to generate MCQs that are related to time and space complexities. Now look at this question. This piece of code is given in Java. Let me just zoom in. This piece of code is given in Java and the question is to find the space complexity of this code. This is a for loop. Inside the for loop, we are allocating an array. So one way of looking at it is that the array is getting generated n times and therefore the space complexity can be n square. But the space complexity will not be n square because this is Java code. Only one instance of the array will remain allocated. Rest of the arrays will be automatically garbage collected. But there will be one array which is still in the memory. I mean, obviously when the for loop is over, then that array is not in the memory. But if you ask me that what is the total memory taken by this function, then the answer will not be constant because answer is order of n. At the peak of its memory consumption, this function was using order of n extra memory. Therefore, the answer should be B, but the ChatGPT is giving me answer D. And it says that each array is discarded before the next iteration. The logic is correct that each array is discarded after the next iteration, but the answer is wrong because at the peak of this function, the memory consumption will be order of n. I have given you one example from ChatGPT and one example from Gemini. And you can realize that the AI is not mature enough to replace the human being as of now. I mean, it is a very potent tool, but it still requires human review. Therefore, when you are learning for the first time, rely on the original sources, which is the book.